Nestled among rolling hills and farmland lies Garel, a vast city surrounded by walls. In a government office, a young girl perches on a stool in front of a tall counter. In disbelief, she implores the official to repeat his previous statement. The man insists that constructing a new house is off-limits for her. Her initial shock morphs into anger as she demands an explanation. He verifies her name, Chris, and informs her that she lacks citizenship. He elaborates that while anyone can enter Guerrero, foreigners are barred from building. A glimmer of hope sparks as she inquires about becoming a citizen. Her expression dims as she understands that citizenship is unattainable for her. The official outlines a grueling process that demands 3 generations for residency. She eagerly asks if she can at least secure employment in the city. He explains that finding a job is also challenging for foreigners lacking connections. The official regards her with a mix of surprise and skepticism. She firmly states she isn't an adventurer, clarifying her experience is limited to guild jobs. Standing atop her stool, she declares her decision to abandon her plans to settle. With renewed determination, she announces her intention to register as an adventurer. She turns away from the counter, leaving the official to observe her departure. Her mind drifts to Garel's past, a fertile land by the sea. The labyrinth Perini's discovery transformed it into a bustling metropolis. Approaching another counter, she nervously presents her Adventurer's Guild card. She extends the card to the official, finalizing her registration. She reflects on her purpose for coming here and her companion Peru-chan waiting. In a stable, a striking dark brown horse stands patiently in its stall. She rushes to the horse, affectionately calling out its name and apologizing for the delay. Leading him by the reins, she revels in finally being within the city walls. Noticing it's already evening, she frets that all the inns will be full. She suggests to Pruchon that they should stay at a stable near the outer wall. At the stable, 2 concerned men greet her and her horse. Surprised, she asks why she can't stay there. The men explain that it's prohibited for safety, as cities can be frightening. She counters, arguing that the countryside poses far greater dangers. She shares chilling stories of being pursued by giant wolves in a monstrous agaru. The stable owner clarifies that the real threat comes from unsavory adults targeting girls. He admits he can't reserve her a room, leaving her momentarily without options. Feeling sympathy for her, he offers her a spot near the manager's room. He and his friend promise to keep an eye on her and prepare fresh straw. Overwhelmed by their kindness, she expresses her gratitude with a warm smile. The men voiced their concern about a young girl traveling alone. She stands with her horse in the stall, ready to settle in for the night. Standing on a bed of fresh straw, she announces that her sleeping area is ready. She takes a bite of food, her cheeks puffing out in satisfaction. As her horse munches, she apologizes and promises to buy vegetables tomorrow. Her mood shifts as she contemplates that monsters, not people, are the real threats. She knows that even in large cities, the outer walls can be perilous. She considers the need for defensive magic to guard against monsters. For those lacking magical skills, magical paper serves as an alternative. These disposable papers enable spellcasting with minimal magical energy. Since the papers are costly, she secretly relies on her own supply. She concentrates, preparing to channel her magic into the defense paper. A radiant barrier of light surrounds her, her horse, and her belongings. With a gentle pop, the enchanted paper disintegrates into glowing specks. She sighs, resigned to the fact that the paper vanishes in a heartbeat. In her hands, she clutches a fan of precious magical papers. A wave of discomfort washes over her as she ponders her predicament. It dawns on her that she was foolish to think settling here would be easy. Her face turns somber as she reflects on her broken aspirations. The vision of renting a room and building a home has swiftly dimmed. A white, misty panel indicates a shift to a memory from the past. A flashback reveals the end of her previous life as a line cuts through her. She remembers being reborn in this unfamiliar world, neither Earth nor Japan. Chaotic starbursts symbolize the tumultuous moment of her rebirth. At the age of 10, her past life memories came flooding back. After a long and arduous journey, she finally reached this city. She sighs, thinking to herself that life often unfolds this way. Her horse nudges her gently, pulling her from her gloomy thoughts. With a wink, she reassures her companion that she's not feeling down. As she strokes his nose, a new plan forms in her mind to save and move. Peru-chan, her loyal companion for a year, guards her like family. The horse nudges her once more, as if signaling that it's time for rest. She comforts him, saying she still has money and can sell things if needed. Leaning against his warm side, she smiles, promising not to give up. As she drifts off, her ultimate dream of building a house echoes in her mind. Morning breaks, bright and clear, casting light over the rooftops. She stretches, content, grateful for a night of peaceful sleep. The stable owner greets her, inquiring if she's feeling well this morning. She realizes she can't use fire for breakfast. It frightens the horses. He suggests she check out the morning market, where a copper coin will do. As she departs, he cautions her to steer clear of the north gate. Curious, she asks him why, and he explains there's a slum there. He describes how the desolate land transformed into a shanty town with poor security. She thanks him, surprised to discover a slum in such a large city. Before leaving, she tells her horse she needs to freshen up. She fears she'll be turned away if she shows up looking dusty. Reaching for her saddlebags, she prepares to gather her cleaning tools. Ready to go, she plans to cast a spell for an instant clean. A wave of shimmering energy envelops her as she casts the cleansing spell. She thinks how convenient it is to include her luggage in the spell. Sitting on the ground, she carefully adjusts her now pristine boots and clothes. With a determined look, she ensures every detail of her appearance is flawless. Striking a cheerful pose, she declares her preparations are looking great. She tells Parashon about her plan to visit the market and the guild. Upon reaching the market, she's captivated by the lively stalls and fresh goods. Navigating the bustling street, she feels small in the vast city. For a copper coin, she buys a sandwich, wishing it were a bit bigger. Her attention is caught by a stall offering 5 vegetable skewers for the same price. She purchases a skewer, holding it up with a sparkling, joyful expression. A friendly vendor in suspenders watches her with an amused grin. He kindly asks the little miss if this is her first visit to Garel. Her face brightens as she confirms it's her first time in a big city. The vendor smiles and begins to share stories about the city of Guerrero. A compass rose marks the entrance to Labyrinth City, Geralt, split into 5 major districts. From above, the enormous circular city reveals its distinct sections behind towering walls. The layout highlights the affluent central and southern districts, showcasing their opulence. The northern section serves as a bustling downtown filled with inns catering to adventurers. A bleak sight of shanties lining the outer wall points to the infamous slum area. To the east lies a commercial zone transitioning into a port town with private residences. The western side acts as the primary entry point for travelers from various regions. A young girl named Chris watches a horse-drawn carriage, curious if it's a shared ride. She discovers these carriages are for the common folk, while personal horses need costly permits. With determination, she decides that living here under such rules isn't an option. She devises a plan, realizing she can walk her horse, Perushane, for exercise. Her eyes widen as she spots an impressive building, questioning if this is her goal. A wave of awe washes over her as she stands before the Grand Adventurers Guild headquarters. The camera glides over the expansive, polished floor of the Guild's stunning main hall. Inside, Chris murmurs to herself, taken aback by the sheer scale of the headquarters. She approaches the receptionist, expressing her wish to file a relocation notice. The receptionist, a woman with flowing blonde hair, appears briefly taken aback by her request. Chris hands over her guild card as the receptionist apologizes and agrees to handle the request. The woman verifies the name on the card, asking if she is indeed Chris Nina. Chris explains she traveled from her last job in Sur Sud via the main highway. Using a magical crystal orb, the receptionist confirms that Chris's details are accurate. It's explained that spirit trees in this realm act as a vast network database. A genuine crystal device allows access to data, similar to modern contactless payment systems. Only those with a rare jackpot skill can maintain this intricate system. The receptionist looks impressed, stating that Chris's rank will soon elevate from copper to silver. Leaning over the counter, she inquires if Chris intends to challenge the perilous Purini Labyrinth. The text clarifies that lower-ranked adventurers often team up with higher-ranked parties to explore the labyrinth. After Chris shows interest in other jobs, the receptionist points her toward the Western District branch. Realizing she won't frequent this place, Chris asks about accessing free books or archives. The receptionist informs her that the archive is located on the 2nd floor, but information comes at a steep price. Chris appears slightly disheartened, grasping the high cost of information at the headquarters. A more affordable option is suggested: buy drinks for adventurers at the cafe to gather intel. The friendly receptionist introduces herself as Anna and kindly offers her assistance. Anna promises to notify Chris in advance if any information incurs a fee, which Chris gratefully acknowledges. With a serious expression, Anna advises Chris to only seek information within the guild for her safety. With a motherly tone, she questions if Chris is truly 13, given her petite frame. She reminds Chris to eat well, and Chris nods, her expression cheerful yet slightly flustered. Chris heads toward the guild's tavern area, eager to follow Anna's helpful suggestions. Two male adventurers sit at a table, oblivious to the approaching girl. Chris confidently gestures toward the men, ordering a round of ale for the gentlemen at the table. 3 large wooden mugs filled with frothy ale are prepared, ready to be served to the adventurers. Now seated with the men, Chris inquires about the types of requests available at the headquarters. She learns that high-ranking jobs such as hunting rare monsters or escorting goods are quite common. The adventurers explain they are enjoying their day off, as good requests are first come, first served. They elaborate that in their profession, one cannot afford to slack off even for a single day. Chris listens closely, then mentions her intention to hunt in the forest beyond the city walls. One of the men expresses concern, asking if she'll be safe out there alone. With a bright, confident smile, Chris assures them she'll be fine because she has her draft horse. The men realize her horse must possess unique abilities, and Chris adds that it can sense monsters. One of the adventurers thoughtfully remarks that the forest falls under the Western District's jurisdiction. Kane, the adventurer, starts jotting something down on a small scrap of paper for her. He gives her the note, mentioning he has a friend stationed in the Western District. As Chris reads the note, he describes his friend Eve, who belongs to the Kijin tribe. Kane reassures her that it's nothing unusual, just a simple favor for Ife to assist her. The men clarify they can't assist directly from headquarters and advise her not to overdo it. One of them casually notes that paper is quite a luxury in this world. Chris beams with a bright smile, expressing her heartfelt gratitude to them. The 2 men are visibly moved by her sincere thanks, returning her smile warmly. Chris is seen departing the guild, walking away from the 2 helpful adventurers. As she strolls through the city, she reflects on Anna and Kane's kindness. Noticing it's already noon, she realizes she needs to find an inn for the night. With a new objective in mind, she continues her journey through the lively city streets. Choosing her path, she decides to take a slight detour toward the Northern District. A tall, narrow view reveals the disheveled and cluttered alleyways of the Northern District. Chris gazes up at the patched buildings, commenting on their chaotic and messy look. Instead of feeling intimidated, her face lights up with an excited grin as she declares it's fun. She meanders through the area, her head tilted back, admiring the unique architecture. Her eyes are drawn to a precarious stone bridge linking 2 buildings. With a worried look, she observes that the bridge seems ready to collapse at any moment. She finds herself unable to tear her gaze away from the unstable structures and bridges. Staring at the crumbling stonework, she wonders if her house-building skills make her notice these details. Her architectural musings are interrupted as she remembers her urgent need to find an inn. Leading her horse, Perushan, she recalls the suggestion from the farmers at the market. They mentioned a family-run inn near the outer wall with affordable lodging. Her eyes brighten as she spots a sign exclaiming that she has found the right place. The wooden sign hanging above the entrance reads, "Spirits Perch Inn." Upon entering with her horse, a kindly older woman inquires about her business there. With a determined and cheerful demeanor, Chris states she's here for a long-term stay. The innkeeper's surprise quickly shifts to a warm welcome upon realizing Chris is a guest. She expresses concern, noting how challenging it must be for someone so young to travel alone. She tells Chris to tie her horse anywhere, assuring her that her son Loki will handle it. The innkeeper guides Chris upstairs, both smiling as they head to her room. The room is basic yet tidy, featuring a bed, a desk, and a window. Before leaving, the innkeeper tells her to call if she needs anything, and Chris thanks her. As soon as the door shuts, the fatigue from her journey washes over her with a deep sigh. She collapses face first onto the bed, a blissful smile spreading as she exclaims, she can finally rest. Lying in bed, she reflects on the long journey from her distant hometown. A flashback begins, explaining that the birthright ceremony is typically performed on newborns by a priest. This rite reveals the name and abilities granted to a person by the world or a deity. An abstract image illustrates the magical, sparkling energy linked to the sacred ceremony. A text box clarifies that skills enable individuals to learn related abilities much more quickly. By age 15, nearly everyone has developed 3 distinct skills. She shares that she was nameless for a decade because priests never visited the frontier. In a painful memory, her father hurls a sack at her, shouting that she is worthless. Cowering, the young girl can only meekly apologize to her enraged father. He threatens that if her skills prove to be useless, he will sell her off. It's explained that some skills, like floor cleaning, are deemed useless dud skills. Her village was once a penal colony, a place for those discarded for possessing such skills. Her mother died when she was very young, never recovering from childbirth. After her mother's passing, her already cold father began treating her even more harshly. A close-up reveals a young girl, her face reflecting deep contemplation and sorrow. In the flashback, she finds solace only when tending to a local witch. Her life changed dramatically when a priest visited her isolated village. During the birthright ceremony, she sat with the priest officiating and her father observing. The priest declared her name as Krisnina, highlighting her rare talent for house building. Her father's face twisted in disbelief and revulsion at this revelation. He exploded in rage, denouncing the skill as utterly worthless. The worried priest turned to the frightened girl, checking if she was okay. The shock of the moment sparked a deep realization within her. Later, alone on her bed, she finally grasped what she had long suspected. She understood she had been reincarnated, remembering her past life as Karisu Nina. Her father's harsh threat to sell her if her skill was deemed useless echoed in her thoughts. Her expression hardened, a blend of fear and newfound resolve. She knew without a doubt that staying in that house was not an option. Desperate for an escape, she pleaded with the visiting priest to take her away. She contemplated the harsh realities of this new world dominated by skills and monsters. Even with just one skill, she felt confident her memories would help her survive. Additionally, she held a secret advantage learned from the witch. With a fan of blank cards in hand, she unveiled her secret weapon, grinning slyly. She shared her plan to create and sell magical paper as a guaranteed way to earn. She explained that anyone could make the paper by memorizing the patterns, no skill needed. However, this approach demanded immense time and effort for precision. A memory surfaced of her struggling and failing repeatedly during her arduous training. Yet, she believed that with enough dedication, anyone could eventually master it. She found the meticulous, repetitive task a perfect way to occupy her time. Before long, she had carefully crafted a stack of 10 sheets of magical paper. Deciding this was sufficient for sale, she began making some for her own use. Her personal papers featured a unique, smaller design from the witch, making them handy. With a clear objective, she resolved to work diligently, save money, and leave town. Her thoughts wandered to the long journey ahead, contemplating the purchase of a carriage. A sudden electrifying thought hit her: a carriage could serve as a mobile home. If she viewed it as a house, she could finally utilize her unique skill. She remembered when the witch had asked her to repair an old lumber storage building. Initially, she felt overwhelmed, having never tackled such a complex repair before. Her face reflected deep contemplation and uncertainty about the task ahead. Then she spotted a small mouse darting across the ground nearby. An idle thought crossed her mind. Did the little creature call this place home? This led her to realize that for the mouse, the storage was indeed its house. The moment she recognized it as a house, her entire perspective shifted. Her skill activated, and her body instinctively moved to flawlessly repair the structure. She now understood that her skill triggers when she identifies an object as a house. Back in the present, she realized she could easily modify an old carriage. Her face brightened with joy as she exclaimed how brilliant this new idea was. Filled with purpose, she declared it was time to start earning money. She reached the Grand Magic Guild, hopeful for a good price. At the counter, she presented her handmade papers to a male receptionist. The man inquired if she had the magical inscriber or mage skill. His expression shifted to one of judgment and disdain when she admitted she had neither. He offered a condescendingly low sum of 3 silver coins, leaving her stunned. The man smirked, suggesting he should at least examine the product before making a decision. Fuming, she shot back that creations from the unskilled hold no worth. She pointed out that every town she had been to purchased her papers without any problems. Unfazed by the dismissal, she strode straight to the Adventurers Guild headquarters. Bursting through the entrance, she called out for Anasan, eager to pitch her magical paper. She detailed how the Magic Guild attempted to undervalue her work. Anna scrutinized one of the papers, instantly captivated by the intricate designs. With her confidence renewed, Chris cheerfully declared it was time to discuss terms. Watts, the guild's main appraiser, soon joined them, introducing himself. Watts meticulously examined the papers, his interest visibly growing. He proclaimed them all outstanding, astonished to find advanced magic within. Anna inquired about his final evaluation, and he confirmed he had no issues. With the quality confirmed, Chris remarked it was time to discuss pricing. Watts provided the prices for beginner, intermediate, and advanced spell papers. Chris quickly noted that the prices still seemed quite low for their worth. Watts clarified that selling through local shops would incur even larger cuts. He added that the commercial guild imposes steeper taxes on non-members. Chris cleverly pointed out that as a guild member, her taxes would be lower. Watts admired her keen business acumen, noting she was quite sharp. He remarked it was no wonder Anna appreciated her, as Anna smiled knowingly. He then suggested making her deliveries a regular official request. Chris recognized this as an excellent opportunity for a steady income. Without hesitation, she enthusiastically agreed to the fantastic proposal. She eagerly leaned over the table, happily accepting the generous offer. Her demeanor then shifted to one of serious and professional contemplation. She requested an exemption clause for unforeseen events like illness. Watts readily consented, impressed by her preparedness and knowledge. He instructed his team to get the contract paperwork ready immediately. Later, Chris and Anna relaxed over drinks as a waitress attended to them. Anna expressed heartfelt thanks that Chris chose them for her business. She admitted their strained relationship with the price-gouging Magic Guild. Ina explained that half of all adventurers depend on magical papers for their tasks. Chris correctly inferred this was due to the local underground labyrinth. Anna confirmed that the paper is crucial for conserving energy and avoiding danger. Chris pondered whether she should concentrate on producing more barrier paper. Anna suggested that support magic like body enhancement would also be quite beneficial. Watts rejoined them, agreeing that support papers are in high demand due to adventurers' skills. He clarified that despite this, there remains a significant need for powerful offensive magic. He explained that formidable monsters can emerge even on the labyrinth's upper levels. In the unfortunate event of a monster outbreak, they must resort to advanced magic. As a first-time bonus, Watts announced the guild would cover all her taxes. Chris was taken aback by the generosity, thinking the offer was almost too good to be true. They explained that her arrival was fortuitous, since the Magic Guild had ceased supplying them. Watts assured her they wouldn't pressure her to remain in the city for long. He told her she could always count on him or Anna for guidance on any issue. Anna winked kindly, adding that their offer of assistance extended beyond just paper. Chris expressed her deep gratitude, and they both smiled warmly at her. Anna informed Chris that they would be relying on her for supplies from now on. Hesitantly, Chris confessed she actually had another request to make. Anna listened attentively as Chris explained her desire to purchase a used carriage. Anna cheerfully recommended a craftsman named Garis and offered a letter of introduction. A woman mentions that Garris's workshop, which specializes in old wood, should have carriages available. Chris clutches the introduction letter, sensing this is a major advancement. The woman inquires if Chris has checked in at the guild in the Western District. She reminds Chris that bronze-ranked adventurers are required to accept a general request every 2 weeks. Neglecting this means being labeled a rogue, prompting Chris to realize she overlooked it. Reluctantly, she heads to the Western District Adventurers Guild branch. Inside, Chris approaches the receptionist, who seems slightly taken aback by her presence. While Chris scans the quest board, a horned man observes her from a nearby table. He sets his mug down with a loud thud and stands up. With her back turned, Chris studies the various jobs displayed on the wall. After weighing her choices, she opts for the herb gathering quest. Suddenly, the large man towers over her, asking if she is Chris. A tense split panel captures their expressions as they meet each other's gaze for the first time. She acknowledges her identity, her face wary of the imposing figure. He bluntly remarks on her small stature, leaning down for a closer look. Her face twists into a comically furious expression of indignation. The man is clearly taken aback by her sudden and fierce reaction. Chris glares up at him, her eyes narrowed in clear irritation. She complains that looking up at him is causing her neck to ache. With a frustrated huff, she turns her back on him entirely. Determined, she rips the herb-gathering request off the board. As she storms away, he calls out in surprise, asking her to wait. He tries to clarify that Kane instructed him to assist her if she needed help. Reaching the counter, she asks the receptionist Yuria to process the herb quest. With a straight face, she requests Yuria to report the man as suspicious. He protests, insisting he was merely following orders to find her. The receptionist calmly addresses the horned man by his name, Eve. Yuria gently reprimands Yif, reminding him that his arrogance makes others uneasy. Ive seems to absorb her words, a look of dawning understanding crossing his face. His tone softens as he apologizes, addressing her more gently as Chris John. He admits his actions were childish, and she concedes that she should apologize too. With the misunderstanding resolved, Yuria wishes Chris good luck with her tasks. Ive asks if she's leaving now, but she explains she has other plans until morning. He suggests they talk then, and she reluctantly agrees, though she feels no troubles. Later at a workshop, she boldly declares her intention to construct a house carriage. The owner, Gores, sees her official guild letter and recognizes her seriousness. Chris confidently assures him it will be fine, showcasing her house-building skills. Gores, unfamiliar with the skill, questions whether it can genuinely modify a carriage. Her confidence piques his curiosity, a spark of interest igniting in his eyes. Convinced by her determination, he gestures for her to follow him to the yard. They stand before a simple covered wagon as he presents his available stock. Gores explains he has 2 inexpensive carriages and a pricier third option. Her eyes brighten at the sight of a massive, sturdy former cargo wagon. She excitedly asks if she can truly purchase it, and he confirms she can. He then raises the practical issue of how she plans to move the large vehicle. She inquires if she can perform the modification work there, offering to pay for the space. He proposes she can use his space and tools for free if his apprentices can observe. He admits with a grin that he is very eager to see her rare skill in action. The next morning, she meets Aif near the city gates with her horse, Peru-chan. Leading the large draft horse, she prepares for her quest during their scheduled talk. I'm a bit taken aback that she actually made it to their meeting. She reminds him of the promise she made just yesterday. She inquires about the topic of their discussion, and he shares Kane's request to keep an eye on her. He delivers the unsettling news that a child was recently abducted nearby. Chris listens intently, noting that another child has been missing for 6 months. Ife explains he volunteers as a watchman due to the lack of security personnel. He mentions that training juniors is also part of the responsibilities for high-ranking adventurers like him. He displays his gold adventurer card, leaving both her and a nearby guard astonished. The guards gaze at him in awe, recognizing him as the legendary Keegan Swordmaster. Ife brushes off the admiration, commenting on how rare it is to meet others with such skills. A sudden realization crosses Chris's face as he processes his words. She asks him to hold on for a moment before they set off, and he agrees. She approaches her large horse, Peru-chan, getting ready to mount. With a practiced leap, she easily settles into the saddle. She declares her readiness just as Peru-chan snorts right into Afe's face. I've protested, flustered, that he can't just leap up there like she did. Embarrassment washes over him as he struggles to mount the large horse. He asks her how she manages it, and she jokes that people say she resembles a cicada climbing. He fights back laughter at the amusing image she paints. Annoyed by her teasing, he stomps his foot and pretends to walk away. He quickly turns back, grinning, and apologizes for laughing at her. Chris remains unimpressed, reflecting on the impressive physical prowess of his tribe. As they journey, she asks if his free time means he recently completed a major task. He explains that his group was racing to clear the lowest level of a labyrinth. However, due to regulations, he can't return to that level for 2 months. She questions whether everyone truly abides by the rules, hinting at possible collusion. Ive seems puzzled by the idea of collusion, looking at her in confusion. She clarifies that it's more of a mutual agreement to ensure fairness for everyone. He acknowledges her explanation as they continue their trek into the wild. They walk along a path flanked by a thick, dark forest. Suddenly, monstrous rats spring out, and Ife responds instantly with a powerful kick. The force of his strike sends one of the creatures soaring through the air. Meanwhile, Chris kneels calmly nearby, gathering herbs from the forest floor. She thinks to herself how incredibly safe she feels while Ife handles the monsters. He cautions her about the danger, but she insists she's fine with Peru-chan around. I've scoffed at her dependence on what he views as just a horse. Chris points out that his dismissive remark has now irritated Peru-chan. She reveals her horse is special, having the blood of a dragon horse. She adds that she could crush these small monsters with her bare hands if needed. She explains her confidence in her grip strength and back muscles. To demonstrate, she effortlessly snaps a rat's neck with her small hand. He comments on her unexpected strength, and she casually agrees. She flexes, explaining that her strong core helps her carry heavy loads. He wonders if her strength is a racial trait, asking if she has dwarf ancestry. He jokes that this might explain her height, earning an annoyed response. He asks if she's of mixed blood, and she admits she's not entirely sure. A memory of her human father surfaces. Her mother was small and slender. Ife listens to her tale with a gentle, understanding smile. He pats her head reassuringly, saying her explanation makes sense to him. He reveals he is also half human, which changes her perception of him. Chris ponders whether Eve, her horned companion, is beginning to act like an overprotective older cousin. Together, they stand in a serene clearing, bathed in sunlight and surrounded by trees. With a bright smile, Chris proudly announces her haul of materials. Ife generously offers her the monster stories he gathered as proof of their defeat. Suddenly, both Eve and Parishon, the horse, perk up, sensing something lurking nearby. I quickly inquire if a monster is near, but Chris seems uncertain. Noticing her horse's relaxed stance, she concludes that the presence isn't a threat. I've pieced together the hints, realizing a non-human is being pursued by small monsters. A brilliant idea strikes Chris, igniting a spark of realization. Her eyes gleam with excitement as she wonders if it might be a fairy. Filled with resolve, she proclaims they must rush to assist the creature. She quickly brushes off Eve's cautious advice, insisting everything will turn out fine. Her lifelong dream of encountering a fairy drives her deeper into the woods. Peering through the thick foliage, the group is taken aback by their discovery. Chris points forward, having spotted the source of the disturbance among the trees. A small, fluffy white bird is trapped on a branch, surrounded by larger, threatening birds. Momentarily bewildered, she can only identify it as a tiny bird. Ife observes, asking if that little bird is the one being pursued. He urges Chris to assist the bird while he handles the larger foes. With a gentle demeanor, Chris attempts to lure the small creature closer with soft chirps. The little white bird, with its long tail, watches her warily from its branch. She sighs in disappointment, feeling her attempt to befriend the wild creature has failed. To her astonishment, the bird suddenly takes off with a determined flap. It lands softly on a twig right in front of her, leaving her in shock. The charming creature emits a cheerful chirp sounding like Peru. Overwhelmed with joy, Chris whispers to herself about how incredibly adorable it is. A knowing smile spreads across her face as she comprehends the situation. She cleverly asks if it's a fairy, noting it seems to understand her words. The bird responds with a series of innocent-sounding pee chirps. Chris insists it can't just pretend to be an ordinary bird. Parushan, her horse, gives a knowing snort, seemingly agreeing with her insight. She reassures the newly named Periru that Parushan is a herbivore and won't harm it. Once things settle down, she asks Ife if she can look after the creature. I've confidently stated it must be a stray fairy since no spirits are around. She tells him it's fine to call it Dopey, explaining that fairies are usually laid back. A decorative panel clarifies that spirits are rare servants of the gods, and fairies are their kin. Noticing the creature is alone, she kindly asks if it would like to join her. The fairy chirps enthusiastically in agreement without hesitation. Its quick and eager response surprises Chris, who comments on its speed. She finds its straightforward nature concerning and feels she can't abandon it. Nuzzling its soft feathers, she joyfully realizes she has made a friend in a fairy. The scene shifts beneath a vast, cloudy sky, indicating the passage of time. As they journey together, she realizes her new friend needs a fitting name. Perched on her shoulder, the little creature chirps when she inquires about its name. She proposes a naming game, and it immediately reacts to one of her sounds. Now called Isa, she wonders if fairies even have genders as they continue onward. Isa playfully pecks at her, and she gently scolds the tiny fairy for its mischief. She asks the year-old fairy if it had previously been cared for by a spirit. Isa begins to share its tale, starting with simply flying around on its own. The little fairy then recounts the unfortunate event of being caught in a strong gust. Chris listens to the story, chuckling as she realizes her new friend is quite the clumsy one. Ise enthusiastically assures that its spirit guardian will eventually come looking for it. Chris reflects with a hint of nostalgia that reuniting with its spirit would be ideal. She reveals her long-held dream of conversing with a fairy. With heartfelt sincerity, she vows they will support each other until its spirit arrives. After much effort, she finally gathers enough funds for her carriage house project. Standing before the robust wooden wagon, she prepares to embark on her ambitious endeavor. Chris acknowledges to herself that she remains a total novice when it comes to undercarriages. A skilled craftsman commends her rapid learning, but she humbly attributes it to everyone's guidance. She describes her systematic method of analyzing and enhancing existing components. Reviewing the blueprints, she ponders the next steps alongside her fellow artisans. She shares her ambition to make the carriage's living space as lightweight as possible. An older craftsman emphasizes the importance of durability against monster assaults. The men discuss their shortage of materials needed for the upper structure. A burly craftsman kindly offers to sell her some of his wood at a reasonable price. The workshop thrives on collaboration, with everyone exchanging their skills and insights. A warm smile brightens her face as she reflects on how wonderful the workplace is. With most parts ready, she finally feels prepared to start the assembly. She announces to her cheering peers that she will now complete the undercarriage. She requests them to keep a close eye on her, as she tends to lose herself in her work. Closing her eyes, she centers herself, contemplating the need to harness her magic-driven skill. Her eyes fly open as she extends her hand, a powerful aura forming as she activates her ability. She effortlessly lifts a massive wooden plank, her special skill now fully engaged. Her colleagues can only stand in awe, completely astonished by her remarkable speed. She senses a mysterious force, like another version of herself, enhancing her work with supernatural speed. Her face reflects intense concentration as she meticulously constructs each piece. The skill empowers her to assemble enormous wooden parts all on her own. A brilliant burst of magical energy marks the successful completion of her intricate task. The undercarriage stands complete, a perfect testament to her house-building prowess. She gazes on with a touch of concern, asking her colleagues if the work meets their standards. One craftsman inspects her work closely and proclaims it to be absolutely impeccable. The men are thoroughly impressed, admitting her movements were too swift for them to follow. They marvel at her extraordinary skill, noting it appears even more effective than traditional carpentry. One exclaims that her ability to attach 3-meter planks solo is simply astonishing. Their admiration shifts to curiosity as they begin to inquire about the limits of her talent. The lead craftsman gently admonishes them, holding Chris up as a model of diligence for them to emulate. She expresses heartfelt thanks, stating that she gained a lot from collaborating with them. With the undercarriage finished, she eagerly anticipates starting the next phase of her project. Later, after a successful delivery, Ife declares he's starving and knows a fantastic place to eat. Chris and her fairy friend, Isa, enthusiastically accept his generous invitation for a meal. As they stroll through the town, she wonders what kind of delicious feast lies ahead. Ife explains that the restaurant is a branch established by the enigmatic Nihon group. The name halts her in her tracks, her cheerful demeanor shifting to one of sheer disbelief. Her hand clenches at her side as she confesses she has heard whispers about the tribe. A somber expression crosses her face as she processes the foreboding name. An explanatory panel reveals the existence of people reincarnated with memories from previous lives. In this new realm, these individuals are collectively referred to as the Nihon tribe. This name emerged because, for reasons unknown, most of them are of Japanese descent. A dark flashback reveals her own reincarnation after a strange line coursed through her body. She speculates that those around her at that moment might have also been reborn. A celestial vision of a fetus surrounded by light emerges as Chris contemplates the possibility of others being reincarnated too. She thinks back to the downfall of the Nihon tribes, solidifying her choice to keep her reincarnation under wraps. In a cozy restaurant, her friend Ife excitedly gestures towards the food, encouraging her to sample the delightful dish he's chosen. A delectable array of Japanese dishes, including nikujaga, katsuden, and sautéed vegetables, is beautifully arranged on the table. Chris gazes at the familiar meals in astonishment, a light blush of disbelief creeping onto her cheeks. Ife casually mentions that the Nihon group is credited with bringing rice farming to the forefront, making it a staple. With a serious look, Chris gently corrects him, sharing that this isn't entirely accurate for every region she's known. A painful memory resurfaces of her younger self, grinding plants and surviving on simple baked patties made from water. Back in the moment, she raises a piece of tender meat to her lips with chopsticks, savoring her first bite. Ife leans in, concern etched on his face, asking for her thoughts on the food he had so highly praised. Overcome by the rich taste, tears flow down her cheeks as she sobs that the food is unbelievably delicious. Her sudden emotional outburst leaves Ife startled, while the restaurant owner stands there, utterly speechless. Through her tears, she explains that the meat is incredibly tender, the juiciest meal she's had in this world. Ife, flustered and sweating, pleads with her not to cry, clearly taken aback by her intense reaction. The kind-hearted owner approaches their table, placing a small plate of sweet rice cakes as a complimentary gift. Surprised by the unexpected dessert, Ife tells the owner he didn't order it, but the man insists it's complimentary. The owner shares his former boss's wisdom. If your food brings a customer to tears, you must express gratitude. Wiping a tear away with a grateful smile, Chris thanks him profusely for the thoughtful gesture, feeling uplifted. Her playful spirit returns as she joyfully enjoys the sweet treat, much to Ife's quiet surprise. With a mischievous grin, she reminds him of his promise to treat her, teasingly asking about her share of the dessert. As they leave, the friendly owner waves goodbye from the doorway, inviting them to return for another treat. Outside, Chris apologizes for her sudden tears, and Ife, now composed, offers to escort her back to her inn. Her small bird companion, Isa, chirps joyfully from her shoulder, clearly having relished the delicious meal as well. Ife's expression shifts to serious and contemplative as he prepares to discuss a more sensitive topic with her. He informs her that a group from the controversial Nihon group will soon arrive for the Purini campaign. He explains that his goal in bringing her to the restaurant was to help her acclimate to them, given their fearsome reputation. Chris acknowledges the rumors she's heard, mentioning their unpredictable involvement in wars, a fact Ife doesn't fully deny. He offers a more nuanced view, suggesting that much of the negativity towards them stems from simple jealousy. He believes that despite the gossip, many of them are actually creators of remarkable things, like the meal they just enjoyed. Chris listens intently to his insights, her expression pensive and still somewhat uncertain about the mysterious group. Ife playfully teases her about the meal being so good it brought her to tears, causing her to blush in embarrassment. They arrive back at her cozy inn, where the kind madam and a young boy eagerly await to greet them. The innkeeper and her son Loki warmly welcome Chris back from her outing in the city. Before departing, Ife asks the madam to keep a close eye on Chris for him, and she readily agrees. He bids Chris a friendly goodbye, reminding her to get some proper rest after their eventful day. As he walks away, the madam comments that he's a good guy, though perhaps a bit too old for Chris. The madam and Chris share a light-hearted laugh, agreeing that such a relationship would indeed be quite odd. Later in her room, Chris reflects on the day, feeling relieved that Ife doesn't speak poorly of the Nihon tribe. The next day, she arrives at the Adventurers Guild, eager to seek out a new job for herself. Surveying the familiar guild hall, she realizes that her friend and protector Ife is absent. To her astonishment, she finds the request board completely devoid of any herb-gathering quests. A gruff, stern-faced adventurer approaches her, clutching a stack of papers and announcing he's claiming all the herb-gathering jobs. Chris glares at him with an unimpressed and thoroughly irritated expression, questioning his aggressive tone. The man sneers down at her, condescendingly remarking that she seems to have been quite successful with those types of quests recently. He reveals his own bronze rank tag, declaring that he can't allow a shorty like her to rank up before him. He warns her not to get too confident just because she has the support of a powerful Kij and Swordmaster. With a final dismissive click of his tongue, the man turns away from the request board. Chris thinks to herself that his attitude is completely uncalled for, but accepts the guild's first-come, first-served policy. The friendly guild receptionist calls out to her, having noticed that she is now without a job for the day. With a warm smile, the woman suggests an alternative request that she believes might suit Chris well. Chris scans the latest request, which involves the peculiar task of polishing a giant agate tortoise shell's interior. The receptionist clarifies that the job demands both meticulous care and an unexpected level of physical strength. An idea ignites in Chris's mind. The client operates a shop specializing in monster materials, a perfect fit for her project. The scene shifts as she heads to the new workshop to embark on her accepted quest. She reaches the monster material shop, prepared to tackle the challenging polishing task. The shop owner greets her with a tired look, expressing his gratitude and explaining his urgent need for assistance. He discloses that a massive, unexpected order has just come in, requiring delivery within a week. A heavy, exhausting atmosphere hangs over the workshop, where other workers are slumped over their tasks. Noticing their fatigue, Chris proposes a different approach, suggesting she tackle the rough shell stripping first. She then makes an unusual request, asking if they have any spare stone or hardwood she could break. To showcase her surprising strength, she effortlessly snaps a thick piece of wood in two with her bare hands. The gathered workers can only gawk, their faces reflecting complete shock at her display of strength. She sets a large, rough tortoiseshell on the workbench, ready to begin the challenging task of stripping it. With a hammer and chisel, she starts working, her strikes rhythmic and focused, movements steady. The rough, uneven outer layer of the shell shatters and breaks away under her powerful, precise blows. One of the other workers gasps in disbelief, noting that she is not only quicker, but also more accurate than any of them. Two men watch in astonishment as she continues her remarkably efficient work on the tortoise shells. Her expert strikes keep chipping away at the rough exterior with a speed and precision that astonishes them. The grateful workers gather around her, begging her to return and assist them again the next day. Chris feels a wave of anxiety, realizing she can't accept their offer since she has other plans for the afternoon. They persist in pleading with her, offering to submit a new request to the guild and even treat her to lunch. The boss, impressed by her efficiency, devises a new plan, assigning all the tough shell stripping work to Chris. The other workers, now relieved from the hardest task, will concentrate on polishing the insides of the shells. Chris works diligently, her intense focus contrasting with her small frame, which belies her great strength. After a long, grueling session, she wipes a bead of sweat from her brow, exhaling in relief. The stack of perfectly cleaned and prepared shells finally stands complete, gleaming on the table. Two male workers groan in discomfort, lamenting their sore bodies and their inability to lift their arms. Noticing their exhaustion, a bright idea strikes Chris. She can help ease their suffering. She offers to create cold compresses for them, explaining she knows a simple recipe from a witch. One of the men is taken aback by her offer, questioning if someone without healing skills can make such things. She confidently assures them that the basic version of the recipe is simple enough for anyone to follow. First, she shows them how to soak a bunch of mint in a large pot of cold well water. Next, she demonstrates how to use that mint-infused water to mix a portion of horse fat in a separate bowl. Finally, the cooling mixture is applied to a clean cloth, completing the straightforward yet effective compress. She clarifies that this specific recipe is only effective for muscle pain, not a universal cure for all ailments. The men exclaim how wonderful the soothing, minty compresses feel on their aching shoulders, their relief evident. At a celebratory post-job gathering, the boss asks Chris if she's looking for damaged wings from a rainbow hopper. Chris explains that pristine, undamaged wings are far too costly for her, so she hoped to find damaged ones. The boss exclaims she should have mentioned it earlier and tells her to wait a moment while he retrieves something. He returns with a large wooden crate filled with colorful, glassy shards, telling her she can take them home. He and another woman insist she take them, explaining they are damaged goods they intended to discard. Overjoyed, Chris accepts the generous gift, her mind racing with creative possibilities for the shards. The other workers smile warmly, pleased they could repay her for the invaluable assistance she provided. Later that night, she strolls through a dimly lit stone-paved alley, humming to herself, thrilled with her new materials. She muses that piecing together the beautiful, colorful shards like stained glass might look stunning. Her cheerful mood is abruptly shattered by the unmistakable sound of a footstep behind her in the dark. A chill runs down her spine as she realizes with a jolt of fear that a dark hooded figure is tailing her. A memory of Afe's serious warning about a child abduction in the area flashes through her mind. Her eyes widen in terror as she connects the dire warning to her current perilous situation, fearing the worst. She keeps walking, her expression now a mask of tense fear as the ominous cloaked figure silently follows her. A young girl named Chris pulls out a magical sheet, deeming it unnecessary yet essential. She raises the paper high, mentally triggering a potent defensive spell. A subtle glow, visible only to her, radiates from the paper as the spell activates. It's revealed that the witch's paper glows exclusively for its user. In a quick flashback, a younger Chris struggles with the witch Sama's complex characters. She walks through the dim alley, a shadowy figure lurking just behind her. With a bold look, she dares her pursuer to strike if that's their goal. Startled, she spins around as the figure steps out of the shadows. Her expression shifts to shock when a familiar voice unexpectedly calls her. The figure turns out to be a friendly boy with light hair and suspenders. Chris gasps, recognizing him as Loki in a moment of surprise. Loki shares that he came looking for her because his mother was worried. Her tension fades, replaced by a warm smile as she thanks him. With Loki guiding her, she explains her delay was due to a client's after-party. As she heads home, she feels relieved that the ominous presence has disappeared. Later, alone in her room, she ponders the strange and unsettling encounter. She admires the beautiful shimmering shards of rainbow hopper wings. Turning to her small bird, Isa, she asks if it enjoys pretty things too. Isa's excited chirp reminds her of her promise to build it a house. She playfully inquires if Isa would like the beautiful shards in its new home. For now, she decides to sort the shards carefully by size and color. Holding her storage pouch, she notes it's quickly reaching its limit. Isa watches curiously as she prepares to store the items. She tells Isa that the pouch is enchanted, visible only to her. Her mind drifts to her friend Eve's impressive storage pouch. She recalls a recent chat where she learned of its remarkable value. She had been told that her simple pouch could hold an entire house. He estimated its worth at an astonishing 10,000 gold coins. She realizes with a sweat drop that's the same cost as a real house. The pouch was a treasured hand-me-down from her mentor, the witch Sama. She knows it can hold 2 warehouses worth, but fills up fast without order. Gazing at her desk, she decides it's time to restock on paper and ink. She notices her current pen makes lines too thick for delicate tasks. With a determined stretch, she resolves to create more magical paper. The next day, she arrives at the local Adventurers Guild branch. Before the request board, she's surprised to find a herb gathering quest still open. A guild receptionist approaches, warning her not to venture outside the city today. The receptionist explains that Ife was called away on urgent labyrinth business. She recounts how Eve was concerned about Chris going on a quest alone. Chris learns he hasn't returned yet, even though she finished her last job early. The receptionist leans closer, whispering that she has a more pressing issue. Chris immediately remembers the unpleasant adventurer, Geis, she met before. The receptionist explains that Geis couldn't finish his quest due to Chris's efficiency. Now Chris understands why Geis was staring at the board so intently yesterday. With determination in her eyes, she declares her plan to act as bait. She reasons that the forest will provide the perfect opportunity for an ambush. The receptionist protests, insisting it's far too dangerous without IFES's assistance. Another guild staff member interrupts, asking if Chris can take on another gathering task. He explains that Geis's actions have created a troublesome backlog of jobs. He pleads with Chris, commending her for her careful and dependable work. Chris confidently agrees, assuring them she has a contingency plan if things take a turn. The receptionist offers a final anxious warning to stay cautious and escape if danger arises. The scene shifts to a broad view of a tranquil, lush forest. Chris is seen calmly collecting herbs while her horse, Perushan, grazes nearby. Suddenly alert, she mentally braces for an attack from any angle. Her strong horse, Peru-chan, also senses the looming threat and perks up its ears. She turns around, alerted by her horse's response to a danger lurking behind her. Her eyes widen in realization as she spots figures concealed in the bushes. 2 men peek out from the thick underbrush, watching her intently. Their leader, Geis, steps forward, confirming he recognized her. Geis clicks his tongue in irritation, realizing their ambush has been compromised. He quickly instructs his 2 frightened partners to handle the horse. With a cruel grin, he declares he has unfinished business with the little runt. Unfazed, Chris retorts that she has a few things to discuss with him too. She issues a sharp command for Perichan to charge at the 2 men. The massive horse gallops toward the terrified accomplices, kicking up dust. Perushan's eyes blaze with fury, a clear promise of vengeance for any harm to Chris. The 2 men stand frozen in sheer terror, completely overwhelmed by the sight. Their leader shouts at them in frustration for fearing what he dismisses as just a horse. Realizing the risk is too high, the accomplices turn and flee for their lives. Geis curses them as worthless cowards for abandoning him in the fight. Now on her own, Chris calmly evaluates her opponent, deciding he's merely a street thug. She confronts him, her expression serious, ready for a one-on-one showdown. Internally, she weighs her options, contemplating a surprise attack or using magical paper. Her small bird, Isa, suddenly chirps and flaps its wings, poised to intervene. Isa launches from her shoulder, flying straight at Geis's startled face. Chris's eyes widen with recognition as she spots the perfect opportunity. Distracted and irritated, Geis swats at the bird while Chris charges forward. She crashes her head into his midsection with a devastatingly powerful strike. Geis's face contorts in shock and pain as the air is knocked from his lungs. He doubles over, clutching his stomach, overwhelmed by the unexpected blow. Chris stands over him, her expression grim as she mutters that his actions are inexcusable. Her rage erupts as she unleashes a verbal tirade, calling him a perverted freak. She follows up with a fierce flurry of strikes, condemning him for ganging up on her. After her furious assault, she stands over his defeated, unconscious form. With a determined look, she prepares to deal with her now subdued captive. Having securely bound him, she concludes that the job is finally complete. She tells Peruchain that she doesn't want to burden it with the man. She dismisses the idea of her tiny bird, Isa, carrying him as utterly impossible. Instead, she mounts her horse and begins dragging the tied-up man behind her. They reach the city gates where she plans to hand him over to the authorities. Chris incredulously asks the guards why they aren't arresting him. A guard explains they can't take him since he's a citizen, and she is not. She is left speechless, unable to comprehend the frustrating bureaucratic loophole. The scene shifts to the Adventurers Guild, her only remaining option. A woman expresses outrage that there will be no real consequences for the attack. Chris explains that the guild likely doesn't want to deal with its own members' misdeeds. Isa chirps angrily, agreeing that a mere demotion is far from true justice. Geis is shown with a sullen expression, serving a laughably short 10-day labor sentence. With a quiet sigh of resignation, Chris concludes that nothing has truly been resolved. Chris declares she's leaving, confident her attacker will be busy with forced labor. As she steps into the forest, she reminds herself to remain vigilant for the two escaped criminals. Out of caution, she readies a magical paper for defense. Her faithful horse and small bird companion stand by her side, alert and prepared. A warm smile spreads across her face, comforted by their presence. She expresses to her friends that she relies on their support. Later, her friend Ives stands with arms crossed, his face serious. He inquires if she's upset, but she only feels disappointment. He calls her reckless for being bait. Ives points out that two of her assailants got away, and she admits to her negligence. A close-up shows Ives, stern and slightly disapproving. Shifting topics, he brings up an invitation to join a team exploring the labyrinth. A quick flashback reveals the guild being pressured to bend their rules. She accurately deduces his concern for her, which he confirms with reluctance. To ease his worries, she decides to take only safe jobs within the city for a while. Ife advises her to be cautious, and she reciprocates the sentiment to the gold-ranked adventurer. A new concern arises. How will her horse get exercise if she stays in the city? The scene transitions to the tall, unfinished wooden frame of her carriage house. A pair of gloved hands holds a beautifully intricate round stained glass window. The master craftsman, Goris, seeks her opinion on where the window should be placed. Pointing at the blueprints, she suggests a location, but he mentions a potential lighting issue. She proposes a clever fix, adding a built-in shelf, which he finds to be a good idea. Another thought she had was to place a similar window above her bed, which Garaz finds whimsical. However, she admits the idea became frightening when she envisioned monsters peering in. The three craftsmen look at her, mildly amused and surprised. Their surprise erupts into a sudden fit of hearty laughter. One of them playfully jests about her vivid imagination while ruffling her hair. Her focus shifts back to the project as she notes all the necessary materials have arrived. Her colleagues cheer her on as she gears up for the main construction, though she admits to feeling anxious. Taking a deep, calming breath, she closes her eyes to center herself. A profound realization fills her with determination. She is building her own home. The work commences with a plan to set the walls, followed by the floor and ceiling. Kneeling on the floor, she expertly hammers planks, creating a rhythmic sound. Perched atop the structure, she carefully secures the arched roof. She inspects a wooden plank, noticing a slight flaw in its surface. With a song, she swiftly and accurately corrects the imperfection in the wood. The apprentices watch in awe, one noting she fixed his mistake with just a glance. With the framework ready, she announces it's time to install the window. She gently places the beautifully intricate round window into the wooden wall. With a final look of satisfaction, she declares the first floor's interior complete. Moving to the second floor loft, she plans to use the space under the bed for storage. She also decides to build a small table next to the bed for her work. Recalling her fear, she avoids placing a window directly above the bed. The main interior is done, so she shifts her focus to the smaller detailed elements. Underneath the carriage, she assembles a lightweight magic steel container for bathing. On the opposite side of the carriage, she installs a compact kitchen sink. She carefully checks her plans, ensuring every component fits perfectly. With a brush, she applies a finishing coat to the exterior wooden walls. A magnificent two-story wooden carriage house stands complete before her. Her expression reflects a mix of exhaustion, awe, and quiet pride. Her colleagues are amazed, marveling at her speed and the polished quality of her work. Gars gives her a soft, congratulatory pat on the head, acknowledging her excellent work. Overwhelmed by the praise, a faint blush creeps onto her cheeks. The landlady intervenes, gently suggesting the men have had enough for now. She insists that Chris-chan deserves some rest after her hard work. Goris quickly concurs, sending the others back to their tasks and promising a study session later. The landlady vows to host a celebratory feast later to honor her accomplishment. Alone now, she sits quietly in front of her new home while her bird flutters overhead. With her companion perched on her shoulder, she takes a moment to soak in the reality. She steps inside her creation, tentative yet purposeful. As she surveys the interior, she marvels at what she has constructed. She acknowledges that it might be a modest carriage. The realization dawns on her. This is finally her very own house. A memory from a previous life resurfaces, a time spent following her parents' desires. The memory turns bittersweet as she recalls her fiancé's betrayal. A close-up reveals her former self's sorrowful, pained expression. She remembers her determination to live independently, a dream cut short by her untimely death. Back in the present, she reflects that this house is the first thing she has truly earned. The next morning, the scene shifts to the outside of her rented room. Sitting on her bed, she happily hums about the fun she had at the party. Her mood shifts to practicality as she thinks about her debts and the need to move the carriage. She focuses on her small, white bird resting comfortably in its basket. Playfully, she asks if they should build its house next, and it chirps in agreement. The bird is thrilled, releasing a series of joyful chirps and flapping its wings. She collects natural materials like vines and straw, opting not to use any metal. She aims to create something special that will uplift its spirit, which excites the bird greatly. With determination in her eyes, she declares it's time to start. A blank panel indicates the passage of time during the construction. The bird is depicted with sparkling eyes, chirping in pure, unfiltered joy. She reveals a beautifully woven birdhouse explaining the extra-wide entrance. A tour of the interior showcases a multi-level design with distinct floors. The top floor serves as a cozy living room and play area, complete with a woven toy. The second floor is designated for dining, featuring a small window adorned with curtains. She describes the simple string mechanism for opening and closing the curtain. The third floor near the entrance includes a wheel for play and exercise. The fourth floor is a creative space filled with materials for nest building. The very bottom floor contains a water bowl and a private bathroom. A small hinged door is integrated into the side for easy cleaning of the toilet area. A close-up captures the bird's eyes sparkling with sheer delight. The bird bursts into a cheerful song, which she interprets as a thank you. It then pecks at a nearby pie with a sharp, happy chirp. The bird lands near its basket, ready to settle into its new home. She watches with amusement as it starts moving its belongings into the new house. It diligently carries small items in its beak, making multiple trips back and forth. She comments on its impressive collection of personal treasures. Its stash includes tiny dried fruit, a round pebble, and an empty insect shell. The bird stands proudly beside its meticulously arranged collection. Her offer to help carry the items is met with a hilariously horrified expression. They knock at the door, interrupted by a voice calling for Chris-chan. She peeks through the door, agreeing to speak with the visitor. The boy Loki explains that someone from the Adventurers Guild has a message for her. A young boy tells Chris that she's been called to the guild headquarters. At the guild, an official greets her eagerly, stating he's been anticipating her arrival. Desperation fills his face as he leans closer, begging for her assistance. After regaining his composure, he details their pressing need for a significant amount of magical paper. Chris proposes the Magic Guild, but he reveals their magical inscriber has vanished. She remarks that based on her past experiences, the Magic Guild is typically unhelpful. She questions why someone with average skills can't just follow a manual. The official fumes, claiming the Magic Guild is merely making excuses and toying with them. He speculates on their intentions, pondering if they're trying to inflate prices. His urgency resurfaces as he insists she's their only hope. Sitting at the table, she feels overwhelmed by his intense and pressing request. She agrees to think about the job, but her acceptance hinges on the required patterns. He makes a generous proposal, leading her to accept the deal without hesitation. They finalize their advantageous agreement with a vigorous handshake. The guild official wears a sly, satisfied grin after sealing the deal. Chris reflects his expression with a similarly smug and conspiratorial smile. A woman passing by is disturbed by their eerie laughter and asks them to stop. The official hands her a book containing the patterns, marking it as a formal request. As she reads, she discovers the request originates from the Nihon tribe, which he confirms. Upon hearing the name, her demeanor shifts to one of caution and slight fatigue. She inquires with concern if her friend, Eve, is part of the Nihon tribe's party. The official confirms Afe is with them, surprised she knows him. She appears a bit flustered, sitting across from the man. He realizes he must be protective of her, admitting he forgot she's still a child. She corrects him about her age and reveals she was recently attacked in the woods. She explains that the security force dismissed her case since she isn't a citizen. The man's expression darkens with rage as he confirms if this really occurred. He asserts that the guild cannot ignore this injustice and will take action. He suggests adding a semi-citizen clause to her contract to grant her legal rights. Overwhelmed with relief and gratitude, she expresses her sincere thanks. He proposes an expiration clause for the contract based on the Magic Guild's fees. Thinking ahead, she asks for a clause that allows her to terminate the contract freely. He agrees, understanding it would be difficult to ask her to remain after her experience. The scene shifts to a view of the city's grand archstone gateway. Chris astutely observes that the city seems uninterested in increasing its citizen population. The man laments the growing divide between citizens and outsiders in Guerrero. They both reflect on the irony, as outsiders are crucial to the city's success. A woman approaches with a tray, noting that top adventurers are mostly outsiders. Chris realizes this large job means she'll be cooped up in her room for a while. When asked if she's worried, she mentions needing a place for her carriage. She also voices her concern for her horse, Peru-chan, who is becoming restless. Her face brightens when informed that the guild will cover her accommodation costs. However, she politely declines, fearing she might become accustomed to luxury. The officials propose that the guild take care of Peru-chan in exchange for riding lessons. She is taken aback to learn that the mayor possesses rare and valuable dragon horses. The official recounts how the mayor came to own these magnificent creatures. He explains that dragon horses are a unique breed blessed by a dragon. A stunning image displays the powerful horned head of a purebred dragon horse. He reveals that Peru-chan has dragon horse lineage, inheriting some of their traits. Chris realizes that proper riding lessons are crucial for her companion. She grins, recalling how ideal, resilient, and devoted heavy breeds are for quests. Feeling assured of his care, she formally asks them to look after Peru-chan. At the stable, she stands beside her horse in a stable hand, ready to depart. She tells Peru-chan why he must remain at the guild for a bit. The horse displays an expression of complete acceptance of his fate. A stable hand comforts the horse, telling it not to fret, as the animal snorts softly. Perched atop Chris's head, the little bird, ESA, emits a flurry of lively chirps. The horse suddenly bursts into a humorous frenzy, its eyes wide with alarm. Chris calmly tells her feathered friend, Isa, to keep quiet. The scene shifts to reveal a large brick guild structure. At her desk, Chris examines the urgent request for magical paper to combat lizards. These creatures, illusion lizards, unleash potent mental assaults through illusions. Adventurers can counter them, but it's a slow and arduous task. The overwhelming number of lizards hints at a formidable alpha leader. The strategy involves using her magical paper to eliminate the entire horde at once. Watts identifies a flaw in the strategy, questioning the effectiveness of a vacuum spell. She agrees that a magic suppression spell would be a more effective approach. Determined to finish quickly, she aims to avoid further complications with the Magic Guild. A hopeful grin spreads as she envisions paying off her carriage. She hums cheerfully, picturing the joy of traveling in her own mobile home. Her fountain pen glides smoothly across the paper as she begins her detailed work. Pausing with the pen in hand, she inspects its tip. Deep in thought, she calls out to her bird friend, Isa, who is resting in its cage. She inquires if they could ask the senior fairies for some fine craftsmanship. She explains that human-made fountain pen nibs are too thick for delicate work. The bird, Isa, chirps with curiosity at the mention of the fairies. She holds up a sheet featuring a list of characters for the new design. Isa flutters down onto the paper, confidently stating it can ask them. Chris beams with joy and surprise, asking if that's truly possible. Puffing out his chest with pride, Isa responds with a series of affirmative chirps. Then, it suddenly dives into its woven travel carrier, leaving Chris puzzled. The bird bursts forth and zooms toward the window, prompting Chris to shout. She notices it's clutching a rolled-up piece of magical paper she crafted. Isa tucks the small scroll under its wing, prepared for its journey. It chirps once, as if to assure that it will be fine with the paper's protection. A close-up reveals the intricate, potent magical script on the special paper. This paper is a unique blend of cloth that functions even when rolled. Chris voices her worries, urging it to stay safe and not overexert itself. The tiny bird becomes a mere speck as it soars over the city rooftops. Chris watches from the window, her expression lonely and filled with concern. She regrets not asking when he would return, thinking of her other companion, Peru-chan. Shaking off her melancholy, she resolves to return to work to see them sooner. Just then, a knock at the door signals the arrival of a visitor. She learns that a man named Watts has come to see her. Watts arrives, announcing he's here to collect the completed sheets. He explains he came instead of Anna, considering it too dangerous for a woman alone. Chris pauses, a sudden realization washing over her. She indignantly points out that she's been delivering them solo all this time. She concedes that her petite stature serves as good camouflage against thieves. Watts is taken aback, realizing her reasoning is sound. An obvious adventure would be a target. A young girl steps forward, offering to deliver the items, catching the man off guard. He gratefully accepts her proposal, vowing to accompany her as an escort. She describes her investigative ability, a basic skill for analyzing magical materials. He shares his talent for sensing threats in others, which she finds impressive. Confidently, he proposes that traveling by carriage will shield them from most dangers. As they near the carriage, a shadowy figure lurks ominously in the alley. The figure's face is hidden beneath a dark hood and scarf. Realizing the danger, he yells a frantic warning for Chris to be careful. The cloak-wearing assailant suddenly appears behind the startled girl, closing in fast. With a threatening hand outstretched, the attacker aims to seize the unsuspecting Chris. In a swift motion, the figure grabs Chris while her escort is thrown aside. Trapped in the assailant's grip, she resolves to use a wind-based magical paper. The attacker grunts as a sudden force strikes them from the side. A new figure emerges, sending the cloaked man flying with a precise kick. The hero scolds the attacker for assaulting a girl in broad daylight. Turning to the fallen girl, he smiles brightly and asks if she's all right. He stands proudly over the downed assailant as a small crowd begins to gather. He repeats his concern, acknowledging how terrifying the experience must have been. Still a bit rattled, Chris manages to whisper a quiet thank you. Watts stumbles to his feet, apologizing profusely and checking if she's okay. The hero playfully jabs at Watts for not keeping a closer watch on her. Surveying the scene, he expresses his disgust at such a bold attack in daylight. He then reveals a shocking detail. The attacker belongs to the Nihon tribe. Shifting topics, he asks Watts if he brought the magical paper they discussed. The young hero jokingly offers to walk Chris home later. He quickly reassures her with a wink, insisting he's not a lolicon. Watts explains to a puzzled Chris that Nihon tribe members have a unique way of speaking. She remains skeptical, gazing up at the hero with a suspicious look. With her arms crossed, she continues to scrutinize him with doubt and caution. The hero simply returns a sheepish, slightly embarrassed smile. Her mind races with a troubling thought, could he really be a lolicon? They reach the grand entrance of a large, official-looking building. Inside the bustling hall, they join a line of other adventurers and visitors. Watts suggests they find a room, while Chris hopes to slip away unnoticed. Her chance to escape vanishes as the hero insists she join them. She looks up in shock, letting out a small sound of disbelief. He reminds her that she was the one who accepted their urgent request. He easily deduces that Watts brought her here after the attack. Chris can only respond hesitantly, unsure of how to react to his insight. He smugly claims that such deductions are easy for him, unlike for non-player characters. Lightening the mood, he cheerfully introduces himself as Ruka, flashing a V sign. She shyly responds, introducing herself as Chris and offering a polite greeting. The three of them sit in a formal room while Ruka begins to examine the papers. He inspects one of the magical papers with a serious and focused demeanor. He acknowledges the paper's quality, trusting Watts' previous endorsement. When asked about his role, Ruka downplays it, calling himself just an errand boy. He then turns to Chris and directly inquires if she possesses the magical inscriber skill. Both she and Watts appear flustered by the blunt and unexpected inquiry. Ruka recalls that people in this world usually don't share their skills so openly. Chris clarifies that she does not have such a high-tier skill. He chuckles, acknowledging that her logic is spot on. With a grin, he lists off his own impressive set of 4 skills. A flashback shows him realizing she shares the same super strength ability. He admires her talents, modestly calling himself a minor player in comparison. A slight blush creeps onto his cheeks as he gazes at her with true respect. In response to his praise, she appears shy and a bit flustered. Chris mentions she's completed her tasks and wants to return to her home. Ruka is astonished to discover that such a small person can adventure alone. An idea sparks in his mind, and he eagerly invites her to join his team. He reasons they can't abandon a young girl in a tough situation. He even proposes she could create magical paper for them within the maze. Watts objects, insisting that Ruka shouldn't involve a minor in such risks. Ruka presents his suggestion as a means to protect the small, adorable girl. Fed up with being underestimated, Chris expresses his annoyance loudly. She firmly asserts that she's not in danger and can handle herself. Her mention of a house carriage leaves her utterly confused and curious. He seeks clarification, trying to grasp the idea of a livable carriage. He excitedly inquires about her previous skill, then catches himself and apologizes. She calmly states her plan to leave town soon, emphasizing her independence. Ruka seems only partially attentive, impressed by what he perceives as her courage. Their discussion is cut short by a firm knock at the door. A woman announces the arrival of the security force squad leader for Watts. Watts introduces the stern man with a mustache as the squad leader of the Western District. The squad leader starts by apologizing, having heard about a prior incident from Watts. He states that the city cannot ignore adventurers becoming victims. It's revealed that the proposal to grant her semi-citizen status originated with him. He formally requests her to recount everything that transpired during both incidents. The three of them listen closely as she details the attacks. After hearing her account, the squad leader closes his eyes, looking grim. Ruka erupts with righteous anger, vowing to take down the one responsible. The squad leader assures a thorough investigation and appropriate consequences for the offenders. Watts suggests she relocate to a guild designated for her safety. Ruka offers to assist her move, mentioning he plans to stay there too. Chris frets about the expenses, knowing she'll need to cover her own meals. They reach her former inn, its sign hanging from the brick wall. The innkeeper apologizes for not noticing Chris had been attacked. Chris reassures her that she did nothing wrong and is encouraged to return soon. She gazes in awe at the grand, ornate exterior of the new luxury inn. Watts cheerfully points out that the new place is conveniently near the Guild HQ. Nestled in a huge, fluffy bed, Chris struggles to drift off to sleep. Since relocating, she gets to see her beloved horse, Peruchan, every morning and night. With Ruka off to the labyrinth, she's no longer dragged into his escapades. Finally, she can concentrate on her work, realizing things turned out for the best. A sudden noise at the window disrupts her peaceful work, startling her. A small white bird flutters in, and she greets him with pure joy and relief. She tells her bird, Isa, how thrilled she is that he returned safely. Isa perches on her desk, asking if they will accept the request. He clarifies that it's not a senior fairy, but a spirit arriving instead. Chris inquires when the spirit will show up, and he replies that it's already here. Turning around, she gasps in shock at a small, alien-like figure in her room. A being with enormous, otherworldly eyes communicates through a series of electronic sounds. Startled, a young girl affirms that she constructs homes for this entity. A peculiar sense of recognition washes over her as she attempts to identify him. Suddenly, an image of a captured alien flashes in her mind as her bird grows frantic. The creature calmly reassures the agitated bird Isa, showing no signs of distress. Apologizing for her bird's behavior, the girl listens as the being offers to fulfill her wish. She grasps the terms. She must construct a dwelling for a spirit in exchange. He mentions that Isa's boasting about his beautifully crafted home caught his attention. Agreeing to the arrangement, she notes her priority is an urgent task first. With their deal established, she inquires about the type of house he desires. The spirit outlines its wishes, a square mobile home with a small entrance for birds. When she questions him about furniture, the spirit simply replies that it has no need. Holding a small sheet of paper, the girl seeks the spirit's thoughts on a design. Her face suddenly shifts to one of complete shock and confusion. A gloved hand gestures, signaling an unexpected transformation. In an instant, the creature morphs into a tiny dwarf, confirming its new form. He explains that he only shows his true self to those he trusts. He introduces himself with a complicated name, but suggests she call him Perupi. Perupi announces his intention to explore the city while he waits. The girl is taken aback by his sudden choice to venture out alone. She quickly halts him, reminding him of the fountain pen nib he promised. Poor Rupi laughs it off, but she rightly accuses him of forgetting their agreement. He then confesses that his real goal is to see how she uses the pen he will create. At her desk, the girl gets ready to work, with Perupi and Isa observing her closely. With utmost sincerity, she vows to craft a pen nib to the best of her skills. Thrilled by her promise, Perupi expresses his deep affection for his bird friend. His demeanor shifts to serious and intense, catching the girl off guard. She wonders if her enthusiastic hug was overwhelming for the tiny spirit. Surprisingly, he tells her he enjoys it and wants her to do it more. She ponders in complete bewilderment if he genuinely likes being handled this way. Meanwhile, in a shadowy cave, a group of adventurers inspects a piece of magical paper. One adventurer marvels at how effortlessly the magical paper activates. He raves that it was crafted by a tiny, adorable girl he considers waifu material. His companions react with irritation, calling him gross and urging him to stop. Another adventurer with small horns attempts to mediate their ongoing squabble. A flashback reveals the girl at the guild, learning about the aftermath of recent attacks. A guild's woman gravely informs her that a man named Geis intended to sell her into slavery. An official clarifies that Gass's despicable attempt was distinct from other recent abductions. It is disclosed that Gass received 6 months of labor for his cowardly act. The incident escalated into a major scandal involving the Magic Guild and city administration. The girl pragmatically thinks she doesn't care as long as she receives her compensation. A sign for a local inn appears, marking her return after concluding her business. The kind innkeeper greets her warmly, asking if her matters have finally been resolved. She affectionately nuzzles her horse, lamenting the costly storage fee for her carriage. Perupi and Isa return from their exploration, bringing materials for the new house. The girl watches with a gentle, warm smile as her two friends come back. She gratefully thanks ESA for its diligent work alongside its elder Perupi. She then declares that it's time to construct the house she promised Perupi. Perupi explains that spirits don't sleep, they simply rest in places like tree hollows. The girl realizes she doesn't need to strictly divide the interior from the exterior. With newfound clarity and determination, she asserts her intention to oversee the building process. She skillfully begins to slice wooden panels, creating complex interlocking slots and tabs. With pride, she reveals her creation, a modular house crafted from wooden boxes. Upi and Isa gaze in astonishment at her remarkable handiwork. She showcases how each box serves as an independent, easily movable room. The design of the wooden panels allows for secure stacking. She clarifies that the rooms can be rearranged freely to match one's mood. Excitedly, Perupia declares he will explore the new house immediately. He steps inside, his face reflecting quiet curiosity and eager anticipation. Inside, the space is surprisingly cozy, adorned with shelves and curtains. Perupi settles onto a small couch, impressed by how inviting the furniture feels. He compliments her talent, remarking it's what he'd expect from someone of dwarf lineage. An elder spirit shares that dwarves were once cherished by the spirits. Flustered, the girl inquires if her short stature is a result of a blessing. Perupi clarifies that her traits are inherited, but offers to bestow a blessing. She eagerly agrees after he assures her it won't alter her size against her wishes. Purupi presents a small glowing plant, initiating the ancient blessing ceremony. A surge of potent magical energy begins to envelop her as the blessing takes effect. The magical force amplifies, radiating from her in a dazzling burst of light. She experiences a rush of new power, feeling a significant enhancement in her crafting skills. In gratitude for the wonderful house, Purupi gently kisses her on the cheek. He suddenly remembers that the fountain pen was meant to be the housewarming gift. He explains he can't create it yet, as he awaits a specific material. The girl's eyes sparkle with excitement at the thought of the special pen. While they wait, Purupi asks if she could fix a bridge in the northern district. She agrees to check it out, despite her worries about the district's infamous reputation. The following day, she rides through the city in a horse-drawn carriage. She sits calmly, carrying the invisible Purupi, while Isa perches on her shoulder. Two young girls pause to admire Isa, calling the little white bird adorable. The girl notes they can see Isa, but not the spirit she carries. Purupi guides her through the maze-like streets of the city toward their goal. They reach a stone bridge arching over an alley between two aged buildings. She recognizes the spot, having passed by it on a previous stroll. Purupi notes that both houses linked by the bridge seem to be deserted. A stern man with long hair approaches, demanding to know their purpose. The girl explains she was merely observing the old crumbling bridge. The man identifies it as the Dancing Bridge, a mostly forgotten name. He mentions that children who could see fairies might have played there long ago. The girl smiles patiently as the invisible Purupi urges her to hurry up. She states that a certain being has requested her to repair the bridge. The man introduces himself as Daryl, a well-known and respected figure in the area. He questions whether she understands the lawless nature of the Northern District. His expression hardens, revealing his deep skepticism and local authority. Losing his temper, Purupi calls Daryl a blockhead and demands he allow them to proceed. Daryl becomes furious at the disembodied voice, telling it to cease its chatter. The girl holds the invisible Purupi, attempting to muffle his angry outburst. In a moment of panic, she tells Purupi to be quiet and instinctively tosses him. Purupi is taken aback, demanding to know what she is doing as he is thrown. Daryl stands utterly confused and speechless by her sudden, strange action. The girl flusteredly explains she was trying to stop the certain being out of reflex. Daryl scolds the young girl for her behavior, but she confidently claims her cleverness. His face hardens as he makes a resolute choice regarding the matter. With his back turned, he firmly tells the girl to follow him immediately. He guides her through a narrow alley lined with towering stone structures. They walk beneath a grand stone arch, venturing further into the area. Daryl informs the unseen elders that an unusual guest has just arrived. The elders note they've never encountered this child, suspecting she's from outside. Daryl tells the elders she aims to fix the crumbling dancing bridge. She clarifies that her small friend, Isa, wants to see the bridge restored. The lead elder cautions her that if the bridge is destroyed, nothing can be rebuilt. Daryl adds that a complex city regulation could lead to the residents' eviction. The girl gasps, realizing the entire community might lose their homes. She boldly states she will fix the bridge without tearing anything down. The elders doubt her ability, but she insists on her unique talent. Reluctantly, Daryl consents to let her try the challenging repair. He insists on supervising, but she surprises him by making him her helper. The townsfolk gather, hauling heavy wooden beams in preparation for the task. With resolve, she declares that the house repairs will commence now. Soon, she's perched on a ladder, meticulously starting her work. Daryl observes from the rooftop, astonished by her remarkable efficiency. Her technique involves carefully packing the damaged bridge sections with stones. Next, she applies a special material to reinforce and seal the cracks. From above, she calls out to Daryl for more stones to pass down. She thinks a blessing from her spirit friend has sharpened her crafting skills. Kneeling, she diligently clears away all the loose debris. For added safety, she starts building sturdy handrails along the bridge. She carefully carves grooves into the walkway to reduce slipperiness. With the bridge secure, she decides to fix the nearby house next. For the shattered windows, she uses stunning rainbow glass with a golden trim. She cleverly etches a protective magical rune on the doors for decoration. The stone bridge now stands fully restored, looking robust and beautifully done. As he walks along the repaired path, Daryl can only stare in disbelief. He exclaims in genuine astonishment at the brilliance of her work. Isa suddenly announces that it's time for them to depart. The spirit explains that his companions have gathered the materials he needs. As they soar away, she ponders the whimsical and unpredictable nature of spirits. Daryl insists she must be exhausted and should join them for a meal. He brushes off her need to tidy up, gently pulling her toward the feast. A grand banquet is spread out on the table for the community to enjoy. Daryl excitedly shares tales of her incredible feats with the other residents. He comments on her bravery for coming to the district alone, but she mentions a secret. Impressed, he learns she recently took down a kidnapper all by herself. Her expression turns serious as she reveals 2 kidnappers are still at large. Daryl confirms the district isn't united, which complicates finding the elders. He declares that aiding a kidnapper is inexcusable and vows to help search. He then offers to submit a formal request for her to repair more homes. A local woman is taken aback to discover she's an adventurer, as girls aren't carpenters. The residents start voicing their frustrations about the city administration's coldness to outsiders. After the meal, she warmly bids farewell to her new friends. She feels a profound sense of warmth and joy from their kindness. She departs the district in a modest cart pulled by horses. The young adventurer muses about the friendly folks in the northern district. A little child nearby requests some candy from her mother. The generous woman extends a piece of candy to the adventurer too. She gratefully accepts the sweet, her cheeks bulging as she enjoys it. With a radiant smile, she expresses her heartfelt gratitude for the treat. Abruptly, her vision blurs and the surroundings start to dissolve. She finds herself on a rough wooden floor, groggy and utterly confused. Her mind flashes back to the kind woman who offered her the drug-laced candy. The last image she remembers is of the woman and her child. Horror strikes her as she realizes she's been kidnapped, her biggest nightmare. Panic and frustration surge within her as darkness envelops her. Determined to stay calm, she vows to take control of the situation. Lying on the floor, she begins to assess her precarious predicament. She's trapped in a rundown shack that smells of mildew, far from a proper room. The faint scent of damp earth hints at dirt lurking just beneath the floor. Hearing distant growls, she concludes that no one is close by. She deduces she must be in a forest shack outside the city limits. Carefully, she examines her body and finds no injuries. A wave of relief washes over her as she realizes she's unharmed. She reassures herself that she will be okay, trying to maintain her composure. Her gaze flits around the room as she continues her evaluation. She discovers a fake magical paper was taken, but her real ones remain. Fortunately, the papers hidden in her hairpin and underwear were not discovered. Though her pouch and boots are missing, most of her magical papers are intact. She feels a deep sense of relief that her captors didn't strip her completely. With a heavy sigh, she believes she has what she needs to escape. Her expression hardens with renewed resolve. She knows she'll be fine. Her immediate goal is to remove the heavy wooden cuffs from her arms. She suspects the cuffs might conceal a trap like a thin wire. Straining against the cuffs, she starts to devise an escape plan. She skillfully maneuvers a small, folded magical paper from her sleeve. She knows that tearing the fragile paper could make it useless. After carefully positioning it, she confirms the paper remains intact. She twists her body to bring her bound hands closer to her mouth. A magical glow bursts forth as she activates the body enhancement spell. Empowered by magic, she forcefully strains against the wooden cuffs. With a loud crack, the restraints splinter, freeing her hands. She swiftly tears apart the thick ropes binding her feet. Rising to her feet, she takes a moment to gather herself after her escape. She notes that the cuffs had no trap, making the spell unnecessary. However, she decides now isn't the time to be frugal with her resources. She promptly activates an absolute barrier to guard against surprise attacks. For a quick counter, she stashes an offensive spell in an easy-to-reach pocket. Her bare feet touch the cold, rough floorboards of the shack. Cleverly, she ties a rope around her feet for better traction. Cautiously, she peeks out from behind the shack's wooden door. Stepping outside, she sees no one but knows she must flee swiftly. Just to be safe, she uses a magical paper to locate her kidnappers. The spell reveals not just 7 kidnappers, but 3 small children with them. The young girl gasps, her eyes widening as she recognizes the small figures. It's the kidnapped kids. She weighs the daunting challenge of confronting 7 foes, especially if one is a mage. Fleeing isn't an option. She fears the kidnappers will relocate the children if she runs. With a steely resolve, she understands there's no alternative left. Her tiny hand forms a tight fist, a clear sign of her determination. Turning away, she swears the kidnappers will regret their choices. Her search leads her to a cave entrance, where a lone man sits guard. From behind some bushes, she activates her magical scanning ability. A mental image shows 6 kidnappers inside, with the children tucked away in a back room. The lone guard sits cross-legged, blissfully unaware of the impending threat. She resolves to cast a spell to put the guard into a deep slumber. A silent magical projectile hurtles toward the unsuspecting guard's head. The spell strikes true, his eyes widening in the last moment of awareness. He slumps forward, completely out cold from the magical strike. Peeking from her hiding place, she breathes a sigh of relief at the successful hit. She thinks about the extensive training needed for such a long-range spell. With the first hurdle cleared, she gets ready to enter the cave. Focusing on the children's safety, she casts a stealth spell on herself. Holding her breath, she advances with quiet, determined focus. Inside, the kidnappers are drinking and chatting, completely unaware. She glides past the raucous group like a shadow, going unnoticed. Reaching the back of the cave, she internally celebrates finding them. 3 small children huddle together, fitfully sleeping beneath a thin blanket. She casts protective barriers and soundproof spells throughout the room. With the children secured, she feels reassured that this will hold for now. The sleeping children's faces show signs of exhaustion and fear. She silently vows to rescue the children very soon. Facing the kidnappers again, she hopes her next spell will hit its mark. She clutches the magical paper tightly, channeling her focus into the spell. A brilliant flash erupts as she releases a knockout spell. The men tumble down in a heap, their revelry abruptly halted. Her eyes widen, a mix of relief and surprise flooding her. For good measure, she prepares a restraint spell along with some rope. She stands over the pile of unconscious men, ensuring they remain subdued. A warm smile spreads as she thanks the witch Sama for teaching her about ropes. A quick check confirms her pouch is intact, though her boots are missing. She spots a nearby wooden cart, realizing it's ideal for transporting the children. Gently, she rouses the groggy children, telling them it's time to go. She reassures them that the bad guys are tied up, and they can get home faster. With a kind smile, she promises to carry them all back safely. Hope flickers back into their eyes as the children agree to follow her. She instructs everyone to climb onto the cart as they prepare to leave. A sudden chill washes over her, alarm flashing across her face. Her instincts scream that something is terribly amiss, and her eyes widen. She warns the children to stay still, sensing an ominous presence outside. Cautiously, she edges toward the cave entrance to investigate. Peeking from behind the rock wall, her expression betrays her apprehension. A monstrous red ape looms just outside, with another lurking behind it. She remembers these powerful creatures travel in packs and attract other beasts. Realizing escape is impossible with the kids, she ponders her next move. Panic grips her as she realizes the protective barrier is on the verge of collapse. She opts for her final option, retrieving a special ribbon from her hair. The ribbon magically expands into a large, elaborate piece of enchanted paper. This untested high-level offensive spell is her sole chance for survival. Determined to finish it in one blow, she unleashes the formidable Hellfire spell. A massive vortex of dark, destructive energy erupts from her incantation. The roaring whirlwind devastates the forest with overwhelming force. The chaotic surge of energy engulfs everything, leaving the earth scorched. The destructive force continues, carving a path of total devastation. Amidst the ruins, she stands uncertain about her next move. Surveying the charred landscape, she quietly questions if she went too far. A surge of panic overwhelms her as she senses her enhancement magic waning. Dragging a heavy cart, she reassures the anxious children that she's okay. She sprints with all her strength, pulling the children through the dark woods. A new danger lurks in the shadows, monstrous rodents with glowing eyes. Her eyes widen in fear as she recognizes the creatures as monsters. She swiftly casts a potent blend of wind and fire magic. She hushes the awestruck children, warning them that the noise could attract red apes. Her bare feet pound against the hard, root-laden ground as she escapes. Her only thought is to flee the suffocating darkness of the forest. As the support magic diminishes, she braces for the painful backlash. A sudden agonizing wave of pain and fatigue crashes over her. The children watch with increasing worry as their protector starts to weaken. Despite the looming backlash, she activates one final body enhancement spell. With grim resolve, she prioritizes survival over future suffering. At last, the towering protective walls of a city come into view. Her face, marked by exhaustion, reflects a deep sense of relief. Her eyes land on her familiar and cherished horse, Peru Chan, waiting. A wave of gratitude floods her as she spots a safe gathering of people. With her mission accomplished, the last of her strength finally gives way. A child shouts her name in alarm as she collapses to the ground. The battle rages on, and amidst the chaos, a familiar figure emerges, ready to turn the tide.